All right. Welcome, 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 Miss Ashley Green. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm great. I'm
I'm
excited.
excited. I've been waiting all day to talk to you, as you know. And
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, you're my little sister. We just go back, man, into the world of Harlem.
I know, right? I
Yeah.
love it.
But I know, you know, I know, and I always ask this question about where people are from because it kind of gives people a foundation of where they are from and where they're going. And I know you're from
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, Maryland, which is
Yeah,
a
be
great state.
more.
Yeah, be more forever. Yeah. What was
Charm City.
that's right, Charm City. That's right. What was it like growing up in Baltimore?
Oh my gosh. Let me say this. Baltimore
Mhm.
is vastly different than New York City.
Okay.
Growing up in Baltimore,
Mhm.
it's much more of a blue collar state.
Yep.
It's way slower. But growing up there, I learned a lot of things. I learned how to be grounded. You learn how family. It's a place where I mean I grew up kind of like upper middle class, so I just grew up connecting with people, friends.
Hmm.
I was in track and field in high school, so I learned a lot of discipline in that avenue. But growing up in Baltimore is really, really different. But you definitely learn a lot of things of the things. Baltimore is one of those things like you have these big dreams and you're like
Hmm.
a big-minded visionary person in a small little pond, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, and you just got to figure out how to get to the ocean, you know. So
I got it.
that's Baltimore to me.
Yeah. Now, where did you begin your because you got a hell of a pen game. You got a pen game.
Thank you, my love.
You
Thank you
you
so
do have a
much.
pen game, and you do have a very very talented young lady here. I mean, incredibly gifted with writing. When did that start? That world of writing. How did you get into writing?
Oh my God.
Where you can change the
You
colors
know
of the
what's
pen.
it's funny. That writing started at the age of about 6. I was always writing like something. There's always, let me say this, there was always a story
Hmm.
that I was always creating in my mind. And I still daydream to this now, but there was always stories, and I've always written stories, but I never thought about being a writer. That's the funny part. Even though I was an avid reader,
Okay.
I never thought about being a writer. But that also comes into play where it's about I'm not blaming my parents, but I think our parents sometimes do not see the gifts and the talents that our children have.
Right.
And so my parents, and maybe me just being a middle child, my parents never saw the things that gave me joy, and I never thought I was good enough. So I had self-worth issues
Hmm.
where I didn't think I was good enough to be a writer until I moved to New York City.
Ah, I see.
So
I see.
yeah.
Wow.
hmm
Wow.
Started when I was young. I even have books. I keep them now.
Mhm.
When I was little, always writing, just always did it, always.
But how did you go? Like I said, from you go from Baltimore to and the
Yes,
pen game started as we say the pen game. You and I know what that means. The pen game.
I love that. The
Yeah,
pen game.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. The pen game just took over. Because when you write, you have to be creative and you have to
yeah.
think outside the box and create things and imagine things that are not really there. And you have to have a
Mm,
hell of an imagination to do that. That takes,
yes.
which you do.
You got to be a little bit la
That's
la.
right. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. You got to go up to Disneyland, is what I call it for a little bit, right?
Yeah, you got to sometimes. Yes,
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to.
but getting into that, I mean, how did you transform your pen game from, say, at 6 years old as a storyteller or reading books, and then one day it's like, oh my God, I think I'm going to write a story. How did that work?
Oh my gosh. So what happened is that I went to college to be I was trying to I went to college. I was going to study law,
Hmm.
but I decided to major into English and then go to law school.
Okay.
And I just discovered that in English classes, I was pretty much failing
Hmm.
in English class because what I noticed is that I wasn't a essay writer.
Got it.
I was the type of writer that's like And no one tells you this. There's the way I think is very visual.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that was screenwriting.
Ah,
So once I got into New York, because I was going to do other things in New York City when I made it here. And then I was just talking, you know how you meet people in New York City
sure.
and all of them are creatives, and I'm not used to being creatives. So they just started telling me things, and then I just started discovering of like, I like, because then I decided, well, my personality, friends were like, you need to be an actress.
Okay.
And then I started pursuing acting. And then I just started like, I miss writing. I really miss writing because I started discovering the scripts I would get for auditions. I was like, what is this?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense. I'm like, it's so one dimensional.
Right.
And then I just decided that, movies, scripts. And I didn't know what a scriptwriter was.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I mean, we know what scriptwriters do. They write movies.
Right.
But I didn't know what it really was. I didn't know how detailed it was and how freeing it is.
Right.
And especially someone like me who thinks very visually and who's a daydreamer and who sees dreams very vivid in color.
Right.
I didn't know scriptwriting would be an awesome career to have. And because I didn't even look up how much scriptwriters, make or anything.
Right.
And then I just started figuring out how can I be a scriptwriter. And one of my friends, who's a great, great friend, my best friend, Michael Gregory, he told me about Jamal Joseph, who's an Oscar-nominated screenwriter. And he was doing free classes in a Harlem Center.
Right.
And and everything just clicked. And I was like, I want to be a screenwriter.
Right.
And with that, with anything, you have to learn the foundations. You have to learn the rules in order to, to play. And you got to learn the discipline of it. And I've always been a very disciplined person, organized. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And it just made sense.
Right. That makes that makes a lot of sense. I mean, script writing is a serious art form. And
it's a beautiful art form, and it's very fun.
Okay.
It's very, very fun. But it's one of those things where people, I feel like, they don't take too serious, but it's a very specific art form. Like, it's not writing a novel. And that's why I put on my IG page, screenwriter.
Right.
Because I'm not a writer. I mean, even though I want to work on a novel eventually one day,
right.
But screenwriting is different than being a writer. Yeah. It's a way different genre. It's a way different formula, foundations, just like with being a novelist.
Okay.
So yeah.
But how do you get into the audition piece when you want to work on it? Like, you come up with a story, come up with a title, and then you say, you know what, I think I want to put this title together and make it something. You got to bring it to reality. So how do you go about as far as looking for different artists, different actors and actresses, and trying to figure out how do you put this all together with so many people to make that dream a reality?
I love that question.
That pig.
I love that. Okay, so it depends on the story. For me, it depends on the story.
Okay.
Many times, every time, if we're talking about after we've written the script, right? I will say usually I dream it before I write it.
Okay.
Because once I dream it, I can write the whole thing.
Got it.
And with that dream comes pictures and images of what the characters will look like. Okay. And so then you just put casting notices out, and sometimes maybe a friend who I know that's in my people, contacts, and see if they want to try out for it. But that's basically how I see. Sometimes I see them in my dreams already of what I think the character looks like. And you just do a casting notice and you pray to God that the person looks like in your dream. Or if they don't look like the image, they give off the spirit of the character. Got it. Because that's my main thing. You might not have to look like the person, but the spirit of the character has to be very clear in the audition room.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Interesting. Now, moving from Baltimore to New York City, obviously New York City is New York City. I'm from Brooklyn.
Yes, it is.
I'm a big boy. Yeah. I'm a big boy, and you're in Harlem, and the experience of Harlem is really, people really don't understand Harlem. It's a transformation of art and history.
Yes, it is.
Years and years ago, there were artists, and then there was history. It's always been history in Harlem. And you look at the brownstones, you look at the the people walking around.
Yeah.
So many people walking around, artsy people, you know. Then you have Lower Manhattan, you have the Village area. It's so many artsy people. Do you think, why do you think everyone runs to Harlem to record? A lot of films are recorded in Harlem. A lot of shows are
Yeah.
recorded in Harlem. I mean, Power, a bunch of them.
I'm gonna be honest. Black people are cool, man. Like, I mean, the culture is cool. It's dope. I mean, it's just cool the way we move. When you like think about it, I love Chelsea, but when you come to Harlem, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different swag
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Even when you go into the restaurants, like
Right.
there's a swag that happens. So the energy is different. The architecture is different. The vibe is different. The way people talk is different. The way we all say hi, what's up, hey, everything is different. So those things you want to be around, you can't mimic that
Right.
in Chelsea, Soho, Tribeca, Meatpacking District. Harlem is its own. I've heard so many people, especially me, when I first came. Even when you go to, I hate to say this, I know Harlem is Hamilton Heights and all that, but it ain't Harlem at the end of the day. Because when you come down here on Lenox, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a whole different vibe, the energy is different. So I think that's what it is. It's the culture. You come down here for the culture. So you want to be around it. And there's places in Harlem that you cannot replicate anywhere else.
Right.
So that's what I believe. It's the Black people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that and then the creative side of it, when you think about, like you said, a story that you have, and when you're in Harlem, it gives you an opportunity to walk down Lenox Avenue, to walk down Avenue, to walk in just 125th Street. So many different places and so many different sections, because Harlem is a village after all, right?
Yes, it is.
And people, when you have that opportunity to walk through the streets of Harlem and dream, because a lot of people since way back when, they dreamt about what they wanted to do. That talent was always surrounding the air.
Yeah.
It was always in the air in Harlem. Always. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, there's a other side to it. I don't want to get too spiritual, but
Yeah.
I have to,
Go
because
for it.
I believe that is the essence of Harlem.
Yeah,
There was the Harlem Renaissance.
that's right.
And I don't believe when people die, their spirits die. So I believe the James Baldwins, the Ellas, the Langstons, they're all still here. So it's like their spirits are here, So I believe even the people who are not famous writers, I believe all the spirits of Black folks who had dreams and maybe didn't manifest those, I believe they're still here. So I believe that's part of why. That's what people feel.
Okay.
When we conjugate in Harlem.
Right.
We feel the spirits of our ancestors here.
Now, who inspired you in the writing world? Who actually, like, you looked at somebody and said, you know what, I want my pen to work like that pen?
Oh my gosh. There's definitely Black people and there's definitely white people who influenced me.
Okay.
I would say James Baldwin, like, no doubt. And Toni Morrison and Zora Neale Hurston.
Yes.
And there is another author. She's not Black, but I think everyone should get to know her writings. Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay.
She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. I love her writings. So those, just to name a few. Those are the people like, oh my gosh, like that is what I would love to write like. And I know people are like, well, those are novelists. But at the end of the day, even though they're novelists, they still inspire me on how I like to bring my characters to life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So because dialogue in script writing, it's the most important thing. If there's no dialogue, if there's nothing really being said or provoking, the script doesn't even make sense. It will not be written. There's nothing to tell. There's no story to tell if there is not a dialogue that can be profoundly, like, filmed, or spoken.
Sure.
So those are like the people who have influenced me.
Well, it's important because, I mean, even like you said, James Baldwin, you got to think about reality is he's a storyteller, right? And a storyteller can write a great book or great novel, and it can also turn into a great screenplay.
Yes,
See?
yes,
Then you
so true.
see that the advantage that you have is you can transform or transpose a book into a screenplay. That's not easy to do.
It's not easy to do, but I believe everybody can do it. If that's what you desire to do, you can do it. You just have to. It's like with any passion.
Right.
If it feels like work, it ain't gonna work. You know, it's just not.
Right.
So transcribing a book to a screenplay, I think that's fun. I'm doing that right now with my friend. He has a book out the end of May. His name is Kim Richards.
Okay.
And I'm co-writing the script with him. We're doing a book adaptation from book to screenplay, to make into a feature and hopefully into a TV pilot.
Okay.
And I love his writing. He's one of my new favorite authors. But with that, it's been fun, but it also has been trying because it's my first time doing that. But also, like, I find it fun because when there's something new, you're trying to learn something new.
Right.
I find it really, really fun. But when you love your passion, it doesn't feel like work.
Exactly. Now, when you talk about screenplays, I think about television. And I already told you the story. So one day I'm sitting down and I'm watching Saturday Night Live, and I said,
Oh my
and I
God.
looked, I said, wait a minute. I'm rewind. And I looked, and who do I see? My friend Ashley. And I was so happy for you. What was it like working on Saturday Night Live?
It's nice. I've done it's cool. I mean, it's one of those hustle jobs that you do. But it was nice. I mean, I was so happy to be on it because I really want to be a writer on SNL and hopefully be promoted to the actors on, SNL. I love SNL. I'm not gonna lie. I think they need more black writers on SNL to give it a little bit more roundness because SNL is great when they're great, And I just feel like I can't wait to one day be able to be like I'm a writer on SNL. I mean, they're so iconic, and I think it's really hilarious when it's hilarious. And I love the women writers that they do have, and the women actors they do have. They're like brilliant in their comedians. But yeah, it was great because when you are manifesting of like, I just want to be on SNL, it's nice, even if it's just that little bit of hustle.
Sure.
Where you're not actually like acting in it, but it's just nice to see what God shows up.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, I'm going to be doing this. I don't know when, but you're like, I'm going to be doing this. And it's nice just to get a little sprinkle of the vision that God has shown.
That was huge. I mean, I thought it was huge. When just being.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, especially from Baltimore, hit me up. Was like, Ashley, that's like, I know.
It's so modest. But I'm gonna tell you, you did.
I'm trying. I don't mean to be modest, but I guess I'm one of those people. Like, you know what it is when you have really big visions of like. It's just one of those things. Like, I'm very happy when it happened because when the director of that skit was like, I want you, I was really, really happy. And God always does that for me. Like, even when I'm humble, no, don't get me wrong. I will brag, because I know, like, if somebody ever said anything, like, there's things that I'm not too humble where I don't know my gifts because I worked hard for these gifts.
Right, that's right.
You gotta
put it in. You gotta put it in.
Yeah, I put the work in, but I will say I am humble that God is showing me a little bit of my vision at a time. So that was a blessing. That's a really good.
How did you like on SNL Saturday Night Live? That writing. How would you compare the writing, say, for a television show as iconic as Saturday Night Live versus a screenwriting? How do you?
I think they're almost the same, except for the difference is with SNL is sketch writing. So you're writing shorter sketches. So you have to write when you're writing sketches, and usually sketches are comedic, of course. So the punchlines the setup of the punchline has to be there. So it's a little bit quicker, it's a little bit different than if you're writing a screenplay for a short film, and for a feature. So it's just the setup is really different. But it's a different type of fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? 'Cause I love comedy, so the sketches are a little bit different and much more shorter and much more funnier, I would say.
Got it.
And sketches are way shorter, so you have to get to your point way quicker than how you would do a feature or a short film. The point of a feature or a short film is the setup. It can be drawn out, it can be whatever, but sketches have to make more sense a little bit early on, you know?
Right.
So you don't have time, you know, like, so sketches usually last about like maybe 2 to 3 minutes tops.
Okay.
You know, so they don't last that long, you know?
Interesting.
Or unless it's like a Jimmy Fallon. I remember he did, I forget what it was, but this sketch, it was a really long sketch, it was like 10 minutes.
Okay.
But it was like, the setup is very quick, you know, so the setup has to be a little bit quicker.
Okay. So you on a Jimmy Fallon show as well?
No, okay. I hope to be one day. That would be nice to be one of the writers.
Yeah, listen, you never know, man. You never know.
Yeah, but it was a sketch he did with the Roots, and they did a sketch of like the royal family, like a parody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's why I was saying, like, sometimes sketches can be a little bit longer, like 10 minutes.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now going to your storytelling and your sketch writing. Tell me about films. What other television have you done? Like, what other works have you done? And in the eyes of the beholder.
Oh,
you had that pin tied around your neck. It was around your ear, but yeah, it was hooked on your shirt. You said, "Listen, I think I'm going to do this today. I think I'm going to do that today." How did you take that pen and transform from sketch writing to storytelling to Saturday Night Live to many different things that you work on, which brought you to what have you worked on? Like, as far as films, I know you were working on a film. I think it was The Big City.
No, I believe, I forget what that film is called. Oh, y'all, I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
But I will say this is that you got to know your talents and you got to know your passion.
Right.
And I will say that I took a break from acting for at least three to 4 years.
Okay.
To really get disciplined in script writing and directing. So my main bread and butter has been script writing and directing. And directing has definitely, it's a different passion. It's a different way of thinking. And it's also like one of those things, it's like, oh, it just brings so much life to my spirit, I would say. But acting, I'm starting to get back into acting. But acting is one of those things that got me into transitioning to screenwriting and to directing, just because of like I was on ID Discovery. I did that, but I did some short films and indies. But what my goal is to do with that is to write a pilot, a TV show for me to star in based on my life.
Nice.
And especially my life moving to New York City from being divorced. So it's just showing like, you know, that especially Black women and even people, that life does go on, and just showing the transition. Because everyone's always interested in my story of how I jumped from Baltimore to New York. And I was just like, I just need to write a pilot for this. Like, as much as I talk about it, I was like, I need to get paid for it.
I was going up,
you know,
but I landed in NYC. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I need to get paid for this. This TV money.
Yeah. But what brought you to why Harlem? Why New York City? Why not Brooklyn? Why not the Bronx? Why not LA?
What's funny is I just prayed to God when I was one day in my house, and the house I don't live in anymore, of course, but I was just like, God, I don't want to be in Baltimore no more. I just felt something in my spirit was like, you need more. Right. And in my dreams, I am a dreamer. So in my dreams, I was already in New York City. And I was like, God, you're giving me these dreams. Yep. And then I just said, you know what, God, like, where am I supposed to be? And I said, and then my spirit was like, just pray. And so I prayed. It was like, whatever apartment I get first between LA and New York, That's where I'm
That's where
moving
you
to.
go.
And that's where I went. And my first sublet apartment was in Harlem,
Okay.
Riverside Drive.
Okay. Yep.
And that's where I stayed for like two years.
Okay.
And then I just was like, I remember I was out with some friends and we went to Red Rooster, and I haven't been to Harlem since then.
Yeah.
And I was there and I was like, and I just spoke it out loud. I was like, I'm going to be living in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
It was something about the vibe. I was like, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
I belong here.
Right.
And so I was just like, that's where I'm going to be. And that's what happened. And then that following next year, my roommate situation opened up and I moved in. And then and then after the roommate situation, I was like, Lord, I want my own place. I'm ready to get my own place.
There you go.
And then someone knew somebody and I got my own place.
Nice.
So I'm all about, to those who are listening, speak it out loud and, say it as I am, as though it already exists.
Right. Right.
That
makes sense.
So
Yeah. I mean, being in the city, man, it's like I said, we could talk about this all day, but I need to know from acting, because there's so many people that act and then they run to LA, and you hear the stories all the time. I had $300 in my pocket.
Yeah.
I took the bus. I landed in LA, and they just tried to make it happen. You made that transition to New York City, which is the two capitals are LA and New York, obviously. And now Atlanta. Atlanta's in it too.
Oh yeah, Atlanta. They try.
Yep. So when you made it to New York City, how do you go from acting to screenwriting? How does it?
Oh, okay.
Most people can't do that, because most people, if they're acting, that's all they want to do is act. That's all they have is that acting, but which is not a bad thing. But you make the transition of acting, and then you go into directing, which is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, where did you get these skills? Because the skills, the pen game is serious with this young lady. Y'all just don't know. The pen game is serious.
They'll find out soon. They're find out.
That's right.
What happened is, I came to New York with just $200. And I got the sublet, and the sublet was pretty cheap. But I was like, Lord, I don't have a job. And God was just like, you going to get a job. And back then I was a personal trainer.
Okay.
And God was just like, go out for the gyms. And I was just Googling like gyms. And then by the third day I was here, I got a job. So, faith without works is dead.
Right.
So if you're gonna take leaps and have faith, you gotta move in that.
Right.
You gotta walk on water like Peter.
Right.
So that's what I did. And then what happened was I was acting. Remember, I've been writing for a really long time. And so when I was acting, I started getting scripts that was kind of typecasting me. And then some of them just wasn't good. And so my spirit was like, you're a writer. Right. Like, because I remember one time I was complaining. And I was looking at these sides, what your actor reads, and then they self-tape. And I was like, what is this? And my spirit was like, if you don't like it, right, you're a writer. And that's when I started doing. And then what happened with the screenwriting was, like I said earlier, I just started like, I like movies. Let me start working on how to do a movie. And like I told you before, a friend do that with Jamal Joseph, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what happened with directing was my best friend, Michael Gregory, of course. He wrote Mama's Boy based on his own adult life and his journey. And we were looking for a director for his film. And then all of a sudden, since I knew his script inside and out, and he just knew, I think he just always knew like how I speak and how I, like even I started writing,
right?
And he just saw, I just thank God for him because he just saw something in me and he was like, why don't we just both direct it? And I was nervous, but something in my spirit was excited.
Got it. Okay.
And when I did that, everything just started making sense. And I just started looking up like how to direct, just started looking at the, just on what to do with that. And it was just easy to do it. And then once I did it, I was like, yo, I like this. Like, it's something about it. It fed my spirit. And it also fed a lot of my characteristics of myself. Right. Being organized, having a detailed eye, you know. So that's just what happens. You just start honing into your gifts, and God just keeps showing up and like,
Right.
you got this and that. So there's a lot of gifts you do not even know you have. Like, I never thought about directing, and I thank God for it, because it's the most, when I direct, I mean,
Yeah.
it's lovely. I feel like I am in a different world when I direct. I am in my most happiest place when I am directing.
That's
It
good.
feeds some part of my soul.
Yeah, that's what it should be, because you know you have a passion for what you do, and as you stick to that passion, ultimately you start stumbling into things. You know, I asked you about that typecasting, man. What was that typecasting situation? Because why do people settle for certain roles? Why do they sell their soul to the devil? A lot of people, actors, and you know, they just for some reason they just settle for whatever role it may be, not realizing that there are other roles, or you can create your own role and just do your own thing.
Yeah, I think there's many components with that, but I think one of the main components is that you believe that you gotta wait for it to be fed.
Right.
You know, you gotta wait for a seat at the table. And what happened with the typecasting was, it wasn't a bad typecasting, but I kept getting typecast as a very much of a assertive woman, aggressor. I was always kind of playing like, and maybe, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think I am a very villainous, characteristic, you know, character, I guess. But I also think like, I think the main problem for me when I do the soul searching is that with acting, I didn't like waiting on someone saying, yes, you can be in my thing.
Right.
So looking at it on hindsight, I think it wasn't a typecasting that got me upset. It was just that I was waiting for someone to give me the piece of the pie.
Right.
And I was just like, no, I don't. And knowing my personality and knowing how I even walk in this life, I don't wait for anybody.
Right.
I'm a very assertive person where if I see something I want, either love, relationships, anything, job, purpose, I get what I like. If all my friends know when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, you know? And so that just taught me like, Ash, we're going to build this table, even though it might take a little longer.
Right.
I'm going to be just like Tyler Perry. A couple years later, going to be a billionaire.
That's right.
And do it my way.
That's right.
You know, it might be a little slower, but I'm like, I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
And I just made that decision.
Yeah, having complete control of your, you know, you really have control of your own destiny when you operate that way. Some folks just don't see it, as you say. You know, they just want to go work for somebody, and they just want to stand there and play the game, the typecasting thing. I'm only going to do a particular role, and I'm going to do this for 20 years, and hopefully something will happen. Everybody.
Right, but you know what? You have to have a vision.
You got to have a vision. That's right.
You got to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you will be waiting 20 years.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. But acting is a really, really, it's a tough business.
It is a tough business. That's why I'm saying, like, but if we notice since the pandemic, people have been writing, doing sketches, putting their own things in. I know friends who never thought they're writing.
Wow.
You know, it really, like, I think with the COVID has taught us that you got to have more than one skill set.
Right. That's
you know.
That's right.
You got to have different streams of income coming in.
Right.
And you can't wait for anybody. It really taught us, and it also taught us, what are you really passionate about? It made us say, like, what am I really passionate about? I know plenty of people quit their jobs and was like, I'm going to go hard in this.
Right.
So I think it's awaken people up.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. You say,
but it's a hard business.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that people quit their jobs. You're right. People have actually said, you know what? I'm going to follow my dream.
Yeah.
This is the time to do it. It's almost like if you don't do it now, it's never going to happen. And
yeah, I mean, there's no reason why not to do it.
Right.
There's no reason. I mean, all you can do is fail forward, you know? And I think and if you're not failing, this is what I've noticed, and this is what I've learned through this season of confusion and blessings at the same time.
Right, right.
If you're not failing, you're not moving.
That's true.
You're not doing anything. You know, you're not working towards your purpose.
I got to steal that. I got to steal that from you, though.
Fail forward, man. No, Fell Forward, I stole from Denzel. I stole that one from Denzel.
Right.
But this is Ashley Green for this one is, if you're not failing, you're not moving.
Makes sense.
Now you can steal that one.
I'll steal that one. Well, I'll just combine both. How's that?
Yeah, you combine both.
Yeah.
You got to fail forward, and if you're not failing, you're not moving.
That's right. Now, as you say, the pandemic has really hit everybody globally. I mean, unbelievably. Yeah. Just how has it affected, not so much you, but how has it affected the entertainment community, in your opinion, as far as like writing and producing and directing, and how have you guys worked out the kinks of COVID? Because everybody was working, people were writing, people were doing, Broadway was shut. Yeah. Broadway shut down. Broadway is shut down. Come on. Mm-hmm. Come on.
I think it just helped people dig into their gifts.
Yeah.
It dig into your gifts, and you just, I think it makes you even get more serious on like, what am I doing?
Right.
Am I hustling or do I need to align?
That's true.
I think there's a big difference, and I think that taught us a lesson on like, are you hustling or you need to align? So I think that's what happened. And I think another thing has happened is that the things of the self-work has a lot to do with your alignment and what you're trying to do. Because a lot of us are not even getting to where we need to be.
Right.
Is because we have to do some self-work. And it has nothing to do with your hustle. It has to do with your self-work. Do you have confidence? Are you working on your confidence? You're healing? Are you closing your wounds? Who's surrounding you? Who's in your circle?
Right.
Is that whisper of voice in your head? Is that your self-doubt that's stopping you? You know what I mean? Because a lot of us, if we notice in New York with the hustle, we've all been doing like robots, just keep going. And it's like, are you aligning? Just like you just said a couple minutes ago, everyone's just taking anything.
Right. And
I think this pandemic proved, why are you taking everything?
Right.
Why are you so fearful that if you have to take everything?
Right.
Right. What do you need to do to align? Because you don't have to take everything.
Sure. Know
your work and know that the vision that God gave you, it will come to fruition. Yep. Your dreams that you have are inside of you, and they're inside of you for a reason. They will manifest. Just wait.
You gotta dream big. You gotta dream big.
Yeah.
I mean,
your dreams will bear fruit.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Just like when you walked out Lenox Avenue with that pen, man. It's like a big thing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a big thing when you walked out Lenox Avenue. I see you had your notebook and your pen, and you was on a mission. And it is nothing in the world like New York City. Nothing like it.
It's nothing. This feels like home. It is home for me. Yeah. It definitely is home.
What's so cool? You can go to different boroughs in New York City, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island.
I love Brooklyn.
Manhattan, yeah. And you can just, Brooklyn has changed. It's changed a lot.
It has.
Yeah, yeah. And BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music, incredible.
Oh, yeah? I love Fort Greene. I love that area. That's my favorite place to be.
Yes, indeed. It's a lot of talent throughout New York City. That's why I think it's so important for people to, the podcasting really exploded where people are being recognized for their talent.
Yeah.
There's so many gifted people we just don't hear about. So many people just in New York City alone. I mean, I can go just in Harlem. Forget about the rest of the boroughs. But when you start hitting Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens, so many talented people have come before us. And I think with the podcast, it allows people to align with the rest of the world and say, "Hey, I'm here." This is what I do, and other people may follow suit. And what do you give? What advice do you give somebody that's young and that wants to be a actor, a director, or a screenwriter, or all? What do you say to somebody that's really young and they come up to you and say, "Hey, Miss Ashley, I want to be a writer." What do you tell
them? Read. You gotta read. You gotta read novels. If you don't like reading novels, start listening to like doing audio. But you gotta read. You gotta soak it up. They got YouTube. Look at Actors on Actors. You just have to do those things, You just have to. just soak all that up. But reading, get that. I will say this, the one thing I will tell everybody, stay daydreaming and stay imagining, travel. I would tell those kids, whenever you get a chance, start traveling. Get that passport. Start traveling.
Right.
Because travel has helped me so much in my adult life of not being scared about so much, and also learning and seeing other cultures. So I would say travel and read. Like, just read a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, yeah, that's really good advice. Traveling does open up your mind, especially when you're a creator.
It does.
Yeah.
And it gets that imagination
Right.
rolling. I mean, I believe writers, you can't be a writer with no imagination. I'm sorry. Like, you got to get that. I tell a lot of my friends when they have a hard time writing, I'm like, honey, you got to start daydreaming again. You got to get back into that childlike existence. You got to start daydreaming. You got to start imagining things.
Right.
That's the only way you write.
Do you get into that? Do you get into that buckle of writer's block where you want to write something or you have an idea?
Oh, that's not real. I've never had writer's block ever in writing. Yeah, that's not real. I mean, it's two things.
That's
why
the pen
people have
game.
writer's
You
block.
see what I'm saying? That's the pen game. I don't have writer's block.
I don't have because it's not real.
Right. I mean, you're right. If you believe it, then that's what it is.
Yeah, well, this is two things why you can avoid writer's block.
Okay.
First, you don't even know your story. You don't know your story, and two, you don't know your characters. You don't know what they're saying. You're probably not daydreaming and imagining, and the story doesn't sit in you. So the number one thing I would say to put that all together conclusive is you don't know the story. So when you don't know the story, you get like, I don't know.
Right.
Because if you know the story, you know your characters, you know what they're going to say. So you don't know the story yet. And if people rush too much, stop. I used to do that too. Don't rush the story. The story will tell you when it's time to write.
Yeah, that's an old saying. You got to move out your own way.
Hey, there we go.
You got to move out your own
go.
way because when I write, it's like I write music, and sometimes I have to move out my own way and just let it happen. You can't
let it happen.
You can't make everything happen the way you think it's supposed to happen. You have to let it happen.
Yes, you have to let it happen. So stop paying attention. Even for me, stop paying attention to fellowship deadlines. When the story is ready to write, it is ready to write. You can't rush the story at all.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Right.
So
now let me ask you, do you know, I mean, I don't know, but maybe you do. Is there anything in Harlem or specifically New York City, more so in Harlem, like kind of like a writer's camp where young people can go and learn how to write? Is there anything in New York City that you know, that you're aware of, where people can go in and they can just learn the art form of writing?
Oh, yeah. I don't know a lot of places, but I do know this one place. They are with Second Corinthian Church, Baptist Church. It's called the Harlem Center.
Okay.
I can give you the information so you can put the link up or put it, underneath this podcast.
Sure, absolutely.
But the Harlem Center, they're really, really good for not even learning how to write, but how to do a podcast, how to get your business. They really geared towards anybody trying to learn. They even have a visionary board, yoga. They have a lot of things, but that would be the number one thing. And I think there's one more thing. Jamal Joseph has something, but I don't know if it's for kids, for example. I have to look that up and give you the information.
Sure. Yeah, you should.
But I will say the Harlem Center, they're really great for that. Yeah.
Now I got to ask you, you're a Harlem girl now, so.
Am I?
Yeah, so I'm going to hit you with the big one. What's your favorite borough?
It's Manhattan, baby. I've been in Manhattan since I moved here.
Wow.
So I have never lived anywhere else but Manhattan. It's Manhattan. I'm such a city girl at heart. I really am.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, like you said, each part of New York City has its own character. Each part, like downtown Brooklyn, Fort Greene, you got Bed-Stuy.
Right.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But again, talent on top of talent on top of talent.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that just don't get their recognition. That's the thing I just can't get.
It is. But I will say this:
Mm-hmm.
I love Brooklyn, though. I love a Brooklyn party.
Okay.
They be getting down, so I've always had a great Brooklyn party.
Okay.
I will say that.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah,
BK forever.
Pete, well, I don't know
Yeah.
about all that.
Yeah.
But I will say I love your parties. I love your parties.
Now going into, tell me what is next for Miss Ashley Green.
Yes. So right now I'm in pre-production on a short film.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm writing a feature film. And next for Ashley Green is just working on this feature film and getting it filmed.
Cool.
So I'm looking at in Savannah, Georgia. Actually, I want to film this feature and getting my first feature done. And yeah, I was about to say something else, but I think overall,
Right.
the next thing for Ashley is, being an award-winning screenwriter and just like taking it to a different level,
Right.
And getting my TV pilot sold, my feature film at either in the theaters or on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I have for my vision, especially for Man Plans, God Laughs.
Okay.
And also producing other people's stories, so that's my main thing, like producing other narratives that need to be manifested into film
Right.
or TV. So that's my goal, to start helping people, like,
Pulling people up.
let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go.
How does somebody take their idea to, let's say, a Netflix or a Tyler Perry, or Amazon? How do you go about? What's the process? Because I don't know. What's the process of taking a script and saying, "Hey, this is a great script. Buy it." How does that work?
I mean, I think time and discipline.
Right.
I think you just can't have one script. I think you gotta have. Well, first off, you gotta know your worth, and you gotta know if you're ready for that level.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have some scripts, because I know this year what I did was I really honed in. I mean, I've been screenwriting, but I really honed in on like writing scripts just that I want to direct, and also writing scripts that need to be sold.
Got it.
So you got to treat yourself like a business. So you need to really realize, okay, I write good scripts, but are you really ready for that next level to be taken serious?
Right.
So I would say, treat yourself like a business and really do an inventory of yourself if you're really ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you got. Just like with actors, I should be on a TV show. Really do an inventory. Are you ready for that?
Right.
Like you have the skill set for that. And I think that's the main thing that I would say to anybody who's trying to get something sold. You got to get an agent. You got to do that. But just look at your skill set.
Right.
Can you write a script? Like in Hollywood, usually scripts are written, a feature is written in 7 days.
Right.
And a feature can be at least like 90 pages to at least 120, I believe.
Right.
Do you have the skill set to do that in 7 days? Are you organized to do that in 7 days? So my thing is, it's like really do an inventory, a business inventory, and just really get real with yourself. Like, are you ready for that next level? And I think a lot of us need to do that self-evaluation to be real. And the more you're real with yourself, the more you can get to the next level,
Right.
Instead of meeting that opportunity and then they're like, you're not ready.
Right. Right. Got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for the big one. As they say,
It's not trying to rush the process.
right.
Don't rush the process.
Right.
Get good at your craft. That's the main thing I would say to anybody. Get good at your craft, because I'm still doing that myself. Just get good at your craft. Get disciplined in your craft. Don't rush the process at all.
Right.
No one wants to read sloppy work, and no one wants to work with anybody who's sloppy.
That's true. That is true. And no one wants to work with anyone who don't have a pen game.
I can't wait to be on and be like, that. I hope that'd be like the new nickname. That's such a pleasure.
I'm gonna get you a pen and I'm gonna bling it out. And I'm just
Pen game
I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send you the pen game.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we all start from somewhere,
You have to. I mean, and just being blessed to have the ability that you have to move around as a mover and a shaker, because you
Yeah.
have to move and shake to make it in this business, and I
Yeah.
applaud you for the work that you've done. And I know you're going to do great work in the future.
Thank you,
You
my
got to
love. Thank
promise
you.
me. You got to promise me when you put this film out. When you have a little bit of time for me. Just
Oh, I'm gonna always have
look,
time.
if
Always.
you could just squeeze me in for a couple of minutes. I may not get a
I'll
whole
get out of
hour.
here.
I may not get a whole hour. I may get 2-3 minutes. I get it.
I'm
I
done.
get it. I get it.
I'm never, you know what? I don't care when God blesses me
Mhm.
for Oscars, BAFTA, whatever.
Mhm.
I will never have, like, I'll always have time.
Right.
I will never not have time for you
I appreciate you.
or anybody, because you and other people have believed in me before I believed in myself.
Hey.
So I really thank God for people like yourself coming into my life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Same here. Same here. You've always been a blessing
Y'all
to me.
seen the groundwork,
What?
Y'all seen the groundwork.
Right.
Y'all seen it,
Yeah. I mean, you have to just be humble, which you are.
Yeah.
And you and I are friends, and we're always gonna be friends. You're my little sister, and I know you're gonna do great things, great
Thank
things.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That means a lot.
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for coming on to March 5 Music Podcast, which is
Anytime. I love
which
it.
is
This
streaming
is
all over the
amazing.
place now. Yeah.
Yes, 6 countries, y'all. 6 countries.
That's right, 6 countries. Yeah, it's doing well, and I'm really happy about that. But I'm also happy that you're here, and that you can share some insight on the world of screenwriting and directing and acting. Because some folks, they just don't know.
Yeah. And I was the same way when I first started.
Mhm.
No one told me anything. So if you don't go to school and people don't, you just got to get that information.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. But New York is one of those things, like, even if you do not go to school,
Right.
it's going to make you be extrovert. So you got to make those connections.
That's right. That's right. Make those connections in Harlem. We're gonna look out for
I love that. In Harlem.
in Harlem.
All day, baby.
Hey, we can either say Harlem or we can say Harlem.
Harlem.
There we go.
With my Baltimore twang.
That's right. Baltimore
Harlem.
twang from Baltimore, Baltimore up 95 to Harlem. There you go. Right? You got to make it happen. You got to make it happen. But it's a blessing, man, to have you on. I applaud you. Look out for Ashley Green. Very talented screenwriter, producer, actor, director. She's doing her thing. And I will tell you this. Dreams do come true. If you believe in yourself, others will believe in you.
I love that. That's a beautiful ending. Yes, Lord. He preached.
The wonderful Ashley Green. Don't go nowhere. Hold on. You see it loading up?